Hey everybody, Ark here. First of all, thanks for listening. I love doing these podcasts, and it's nice to know that there are some people out there that like to listen to these. So, without further ado, let's get this going. A couple weeks ago was the last time I did a podcast, so in the past 2 weeks, I finished a VN and then I started another one. The one that I finished was Joka no Mancho. It is a fan fiction written by Urobuchi Gen related to the movie Equilibrium. I myself haven't seen the film, but having read the VN, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The world in which Joka no Mancho takes place, and thusly Equilibrium, is fantastic. I love the concept behind it, and it's ultimately something that you're going to have to look at for yourself, because I won't do a good job of explaining it. But the other thing about Joka no Mancho is that it's extremely short. It's less than 800 lines of text, and it's extremely readable. Translated by Makoto, who, in my personal opinion, is the best translator out there. He is without peer, and if you haven't read Hanachiras, you owe it to yourself to take a look at it at least, just to see how the translation is. So, Joka no Mancho focuses on a conflict between two longtime friends, which ends up in, a very decisive fight. The action sequences were very well done. The info dumps, there are some VNs that I just don't appreciate info dumps. They were done well. They were done in Gen Urobuchi style. If you've read Hanachiras, then Joka no Mancho does these info dumps in much the same style, and Makoto brings it out in a very similar prose. So if you've heard of Joka no Mancho, give it a shot. You can read it in an hour, in less than that. And if you haven't heard of Joka no Mancho, I'm going to include a download link in this Reddit post so you guys can take a look at it. It's worth downloading, it's worth looking into, it's worth reading. It's short, but it's fantastic. I gave it an 8 out of 10 on my VNDB. It's, to me it wasn't long enough to warrant anything higher than that, because there needs to be time for me to invest myself, but for the amount of time that I invested in it, it was a fantastically interesting story, and it's definitely worth looking into. Okay, on to the VN that I started this a couple days ago. I decided to keep going with my Akabe soft run. After finishing Sharin, I'm now starting Jisenjo no Mao, which I've heard from all of the stories that I've heard is actually the reverse order. Most of the people that I talked to read Jisenjo first and then Sharin. I've heard some mixed opinions about Jisenjo. I've heard people that say Jisenjo is better. I've heard more people say that Sharin is better. I loved the hell out of Sharin, and I'm going to hold Jisenjo to much the same standard due to the fact that Jisenjo was made at a later date, which interestingly enough I didn't know. I thought that Sharin, because everybody kept saying that the order was Jisenjo then Sharin, I always figured that Jisenjo came first and Sharin later, but apparently I was wrong about that one. Starting to the VN, I like it. I like the main character. I haven't read enough to give any significant topics about the subject matter, about the common root. The translation reads well. The UI is clean. It functions well on a tablet. It doesn't crash on Windows 10. The initial assumptions that you can get just by going into the VN. But I'm looking forward to reading this. Hopefully I'm going to be able to slam it out before Meikyu comes out next week. Hopefully, if Meikyu comes out next week. Everybody keep your hype drives in check. Make sure you keep them cooled. Make sure you have at least one hype certified engineer on them at all times, because if it gets out of control, it's a bad thing. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I hope to see you next week. Hopefully, we're going to have some good news with Meikyu. I'll catch you guys around. Ark, signing off.